Hi, my name is Tara, and I want to welcome you to the View from Israel podcast. The View from Israel was born on the Black Sabbath of October 7, 2023, from the need to present valid and confirmed information to the public. Our social media hashtag is View from Israel. Our podcast is available in all major podcast directories. Our free newsletter is on Substack and comes out approximately 5 times a week. We are not associated with any political movement or outside institution or company. Our entire budget comes from advertisements in our podcasts and newsletters, videos, memberships, and donations. At The View from Israel, we believe silence is no longer an option. We are guided by one primary principle. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Now, let us go to our podcast episode. Though Ted wrote this piece, I will be reading it to you in this episode due to the subject matter. It is called Witness and Testimony, and was written after we read the New York Times article entitled Screams Without Words. Screams Without Words is just the tip of the iceberg. Let us start this off with a theme. Life as it is, and life as it should be. All links to information, videos, and newspaper articles referred to in this episode will be in the episode notes. There has been a lot of discussion about the recent New York Times piece, published on December 28, 2023, entitled Screams Without Words: How Hamas Weaponized Sexual Violence on October 7th. A New York Times investigation uncovered new details showing a pattern of rape, mutilation, and extreme brutality against women in the attacks on Israel. If you have a subscription to the New York Times, you can read the entire piece. Since many do not maintain a subscription, a PDF of the article is available on the View from Israel website or in our newsletter on Substack. The piece states that the authors reported from across Israel and interviewed more than 150 people. So, based on the source of the piece and how it is written, it has garnered a great deal of attention. At first, when the link to that piece arrived in my daily email, I was skeptical. It was a cynical reaction. I said to myself, of course. This did not happen until the New York Times spent 2.5 months to verify the story. But then, I took the time to read it. And then reread it. I think every conspiracy theorist about Israel faking evidence needs to read this. I cannot read the entire piece in this episode, however, here is the beginning. At first, she was known simply as the woman in the black dress. In a grainy video, you can see her lying on her back. Dress torn. Legs spread. Vagina exposed. Her face is burned beyond recognition, and her right hand covers her eyes. The video was shot in the early hours of October 8th by a woman searching for a missing friend at the site of the rave in southern Israel, where, the day before, Hamas terrorists massacred hundreds of young Israelis. The video went viral, with thousands of people responding, desperate to know if the woman in the black dress was their missing friend, sister, or daughter. One family knew exactly who she was. Gal Abdush, mother of 2, from a working-class town in central Israel, who disappeared from the rave that night with her husband. As the terrorists closed in on her, trapped on a highway, in a line of cars of people trying to flee the party, she sent one final WhatsApp message to her family. It said simply, "You don't understand." Based largely on the video evidence, which was verified by the New York Times, Israeli police officials said they believed that Miss Abdush was raped, and she has become a symbol of the horrors visited upon Israeli women and girls during the October 7th attacks. The article only gets worse from there. Yet, I was still a bit surprised. You see, if one bothers to go through such sources as YouTube, you will find hundreds of videos of witness testimony. Not only from Israeli channels. 60 Minutes did a piece on it. A link to this video will be in the episode notes. The video evidence in drips and drabs is being released. There is a need to protect the privacy of those left alive, and the families of those who were raped and murdered. But for those who knew of it, the video and audio evidence was always available on Telegram and other places. Videos and audio that Hamas uploaded. Not by Israel. To be clear. So why do I need the New York Times to prove it? That question is mute. We need all the verifiable proof we can get. Too many have adopted a stance that these are just abhorrent acts that should be overlooked. They should not be viewed as something that paints the overall philosophy of Hamas. They are horrible, to be sure, but one cannot paint an entire culture based on these actions. That is, if you are not simply a rabid anti-Semite or hate Israel with a passion that is beyond logic. We are told to forget it. Move on. Shit happens. Let it be. It does not portray an entire nation or culture. This is the argument. This is the justification. To such individuals who accept such justifications, life should be ruled by lyrics and words. In the end, it all boils down to the famous words of let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Sound familiar? It should. Those are some of the lyrics from the famous Lennon and McCartney song Let It Be. Indeed, there were many times when I sang that song to myself, hoping it would help during a crisis. But as I have learned, beautiful lyrics do not answer all problems. They are lyrics. They are just words to a song. And then my brain rings with the following simple quote based upon Talmudic lore. He who is compassionate to the cruel will ultimately become cruel to the compassionate. Simple. Compelling. And oh so true. To justify such horrendous acts is to ignore life as it is entirely. You cannot say, let it be, when confronted with such horror. You cannot turn your head and ignore it and just move on. Life does not work that way. This brings me to the following quote, which is one of my favorite quotes. It comes from the 1972 movie Man of La Mancha. For those who do not know this, Man of La Mancha is based upon Don Quixote, written by Miguel de Cervantes. Let me read you this quote. Life as it is. I've lived for over 40 years, and I've seen life as it is. Pain. Misery. Cruelty beyond belief. I've heard all the voices of God's noblest creature. Moans from bundles of filth in the street. I've been a soldier and a slave. I've seen my comrades fall in battle, or die more slowly, under the lash in Africa. I've held them in my arms, at the final moment. These were men who saw life as it is, yet they died despairing. No glory, no brave last words, only their eyes, filled with confusion, questioning why. I do not think they were asking why they were dying, but why they had ever lived. When life itself seems lunatic, who knows where madness lies? Perhaps to be too practical is madness. To surrender dreams, this may be madness. To seek treasure where there is only trash. Too much sanity may be madness. And maddest of all, to see life as it is, and not as it should be. I truly believe this. Life should be seen as it should be, and not as it is. If you only concentrate on life as it is, you will never have the courage to dream for something better. Yet life as it is must be confronted. We must never ignore it. If we do, we will forfeit any claim to live life as it should be. And we must confront it. Let us now deal with the central issue. The elephant in the room, as it were. So, what is rape? We could go to the dictionary, Wikipedia, and hundreds of thousands of other sources. But rather, let us do it in clear words. Rape violates every aspect of being human and being free. It destroys identity. It takes away free will. It destroys the psyche and the body. It is not just abhorrent, it is an act that turns the human committing this act into an animal. It is not just reprehensible, it defies the essence of who the victim is. It forces the victim to become a survivor. In many cases, that switch cannot be made. It is a crime that has no excuse. And it is a crime that can never be undone. And yet my brain plays hundreds of images of women on the streets of many countries, screaming at the top of their lungs. Rape the Jews. Rape the Israelis. They deserve it. And to this, you want us to say, forget it. Move on. Shit happens. Let it be. It does not portray an entire nation or culture. Seriously? What universe do you live in? By the way, it is critical to note that YouTube and many other social networks, in all their wisdom, do not allow the term rape to be used. It must be sexual assault, used with the acronym SA. Great way to bury one's head in the sand. The following article, published by the Jerusalem Post on January 1, 2024, shows how difficult it is to face life as it is. It is long, and I will let you know when I am finished reading it. The article was entitled, "Full Extent of Hamas's Sex Crimes on October 7th May Never Be Known." Telegraph probe. Failure of collection of evidence and stigma are some of the reasons the violence may never fully be known. Here, I will quote the entire article. Evidence on the mass rape of women, 3 months after the October 7th massacre, is still being collected. On Sunday, the Telegraph reported that the full extent of Hamas's sex crimes may never be known, for a variety of reasons. In an interview with Hayam Atmazjan, a Zaka volunteer and first responder, the Telegraph details barriers to uncovering the evidence of mass rape and sexual abuse on October 7th. Atmazjan says he was not looking for evidence of sexual abuse when he joined the mission to recover the dead, murdered, and mutilated victims of the Hamas attack, but he found it when he entered Be'eri, one of the worst-hit kibbutzim on the border of Gaza. I typically don't pay attention to details. We work like machines to pick up the bodies. But something went through my mind. One of the barriers outlined in this report is that only some of the evidence Atmazjan collected that day is reaching the public domain now, partially due to the panicked initial response from authorities and volunteers. While Atmazjan was collecting the bodies in the field, the IDF base was receiving the corpses. Sherry Mendez was one of the individuals receiving the bodies. She said, "Many young women arrived in bloody, shredded rags or just in underwear, and their underwear was often very bloody. Our commander saw several female soldiers shot in the crotch or the breast. There seemed to be systematic genital mutilation of a group of victims. Forensic reviews of video footage, interviews, and these images illustrate a pattern of sexual violence perpetrated against women in Hamas attacks." Both Atmazjan and Mendez told the Telegraph they were overwhelmed on the day of the attacks, and that their work was focused on finding survivors or preparing bodies, that everyone was in a hurry at the morgue to release bodies to the families for burial. They were not looking for clues about exactly what happened to them, so much evidence escaped collection. An investigation by an Israeli daily at the beginning of December detailed the failures of Israeli authorities to preserve forensic evidence in the aftermath of the Hamas attack. Unnamed officials described a pattern in which immediate identification was prioritized over evidence collection. Jewish law requires burial within 24 hours after death. Atmazjan did admit that he and his colleagues had missed some of the evidence because he had covered the bodies or adjusted their clothing out of respect when he came across them. Another obstacle is that most survivors are not speaking out. Professor Ruth Halperin Hadari, an Israeli legal scholar who served 12 years on the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, estimates that there are at least 10 survivors who were subjected to sexual violence. The Telegraph reported that she said that most victims were killed by Hamas attackers immediately. It often takes years before assaults are reported, and victims could be unwilling to speak out because of a very heavy cost for the families. It's a small country, everyone knows everybody, Professor Halperin Kadari said. Israeli police have launched an official investigation into reports of sexual violence in Israel. Some of the freed hostages are survivors of sexual assault, Renana Eitan, the chairman of the psychiatry department at Tel Aviv's Ichilov Medical Center, said. Dr. Eitan told the Telegraph that doctors specifically asked the patients not to speak publicly about their cases out of fear that they would be re-traumatized. However, Dr. Eitan said the hospital is cooperating with the police investigation. The Telegraph did speak to a source familiar with the investigation and said that there are growing tensions between Israeli hospitals treating former hostages and police pushing them to provide details of suspected rape cases. Hospitals dismissed the calls, arguing doctor-patient confidentiality. That is the end of the article. This was the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Oh, I know, you have heard that statement ad nauseum. It already grates on your nerves. Stop the drama, you say. Scream out Nazi from the rooftops. It means nothing. It does not lead to violence. That is your argument. Such an argument can only be made by those who do not know what the term Holocaust implies to someone who understands it. The free speech argument about letting white supremacists and those who want to scream out the term Nazi just for fun or in hate does not hold validity to anyone who understands the meaning of the Holocaust. You can find the USC Shoah Foundation on YouTube, other social networks, and in many museums. Just look it up, and it will be in the links of the episode. The Institute for Visual History and Education develops empathy, understanding, and respect through testimony using its visual history archive of more than 55,000 video testimonies, academic programs, and partnerships across USC and 170 universities, and award-winning Witness Education Program. USC Shoah Foundation's interactive programming, research, and materials are accessed in museums and universities, cited by government leaders and NGOs, and taught in classrooms around the world. Now in its third decade, USC Shoah Foundation reaches millions of people on 6 continents from its home at the University of Southern California. Until October 7th, it concentrated only on those bearing witness to the Holocaust. Those videos are horrific enough. Then, in a telling sign, suddenly witness testimony started appearing from survivors of the Hamas terrorist attack. So yes, it has become an extension of the Holocaust. It is bearing witness to life as it is. Had enough? Trust me, there is enough on just that one YouTube channel for you to watch for over 24 hours. Screams Without Words is just the tip of the iceberg. It goes way beyond that article. So, next time you want to tell us, forget it. Move on. Shit happens. Let it be. It does not portray an entire nation or culture. Remember this. We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will not let the silent screams go unanswered. And yes, we know, we will be paying a very high price. And yes, we know, it will come at a significant cost to our own psyche. And yes, we know, it will lead to many deaths. And yes, we know, it will destroy many in Gaza. Yet we also know, to get to life as it should be, we first must face life as it is. Otherwise, all dreams of a better future are a wisp of the wind. They become but shadows of a dream. We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will not let the silent screams go unanswered. Thank you for listening. Our podcast is available in all major podcast directories, on Substack, and on our website, viewfromisrael.com. You can listen to it in your favorite podcast app and on our YouTube channel. Please do not forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. Our newsletter is on Substack and comes out approximately 5 times a week. Use the links in our profile here, or go to substack.com and search for The View from Israel. It is totally free. There is no paywall. All one-time or continuing monthly donations are greatly appreciated. Links to our donation page are in Substack, in our newsletters, and in the podcast episode directories. If you wish to advertise with us in our podcast or our newsletter, please contact us at advertise@viewfromisrael.com. Please take note. We are not associated with any political movement or outside institution or company. Our entire budget comes from advertisements in our podcasts and videos, newsletters, memberships, and donations. At The View from Israel, we believe that silence is no longer an option. We are guided by one primary principle. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I hope you have a wonderful day.